Hello, I hope you're all doing well. I'm making this video in regards to a major update I would like to address. This is a decision that's been in the back of my head and I've wanted to do this for a while. So, you're probably wondering and asking yourselves, where are all my live streams and videos at? They are not gone. They are privated for multiple reasons. If you've watched my streams before or you've been on my Discord server, then you may have a good picture. But if you're new here, that's a long story. There are 5 main reasons to why I'm making this choice. I'm going to explain them, say what I've been up to, and then talk about my plans for the future. I had no gameplay footage at all in the beginning of this project. I had to spend a lot of time gathering footage and getting everything together. It took a while since there's a lot I want to talk about. It explains why this video came out later rather than sooner. With that being said, let's start with the first reason.
Alright, the first reason is no direction. I had no idea what direction I was going. When I first began streaming on YouTube, I had no idea what I was doing and how to go about it. This is where I didn't really understand how to go about my streams and I just did them for the fun of it. I remember when I first started making content on YouTube, I just ended up making videos based on Mario and Luigi Dream Team's giant boss fights, which I still think to this day were incredible for a handheld system. I did videos based on emulation with the NVIDIA Shield Portable with Wii, GameCube, and Nintendo DS games. I did recordings based off showing mods within the game Sonic Generations, and to this day, it is surprising to see how much work was put into the game. Some of the custom stages and the layouts within them are amazing. I honestly think Sega took some inspiration from the custom stages over the years if you ask me. I did recordings based on fan-made Sonic games, and honestly, there were a lot of them that had some fantastic gameplay which got my attention within the time. Lastly, I did recordings based on unboxing videos, and honestly, I do not really understand why I did those to begin with. I actually still have all the amiibos that I did unboxing videos on, and I've been able to keep them in good condition over the years. I also recorded some Wii U games when I first started making videos on the channel, but it really didn't make sense why I did them in the first place. I did games such as Super Mario Maker 1 showing off levels that I made within the game. It is hard to believe those were the kind of levels I made back then. I also did a recording showing gameplay on the title Yoshi's Woolly World. This was actually the Japanese version of the game. I was able to get it early because the game was released in Japan a few months before Nintendo released it in the USA. I did have a Japanese Wii U at the time since the console was region locked. To this day, it is still my all-time favorite Yoshi game. It's been a long time since I played Sonic Generations, and I don't even have the NVIDIA Shield anymore. I have no idea what happened to it to begin with. It's a mystery to me, but I wouldn't play it anymore since technology has gotten a lot more advanced. Within those videos, that was over 11 years ago. So, as I've been looking through my content and the videos that received a lot of attention, I would like to talk about some of them and what the context behind them were. The first one I would like to talk about is the video I made on my birthday in 2015. When the video came out, I was 15 years old as I was on the approach of being 16. I ended up visiting a place called HTR Niagara RV and Cabins, or better known to me as Branches. I went up there for a few reasons, but it was mostly based on the fact I had family members that lived near that area, and my mom thought it would be a good idea to celebrate one of my birthdays at the campsite. Now, when I made the video, I didn't really think about what I wanted to say or go about it. I just kinda did it with no attention to anything or even a goal in mind. I want to say what was going through my head was showing off what I got for my birthday and let people know on the internet. I will say this, I had a lot of fun when I was up there, and that was where this video came into the picture. When I was streaming on YouTube, I would get comments based on the video and how people loved it. I am grateful this video got attention, but I'm going to be real. I'm not that guy anymore, and it is complicated to explain. What I'm about to say is something I do not like talking about, but I have to address it for the context of this entire video and statement to make sense. I am someone that has autism with a learning disability. There are a lot of reasons why I do not like talking about it or saying it out loud, but one of the biggest reasons I do not like mentioning it to anyone is because I've pretty much been labeled my entire life on everything I do. It has a lot to do with how I approach challenges and handling situations back then. When I began streaming, it was a time where life was simple and I didn't really think about anything that was going on in my life. There were moments where I had to make a choice based on any situation that was going on or was about to take place. This was where I had a really tough time since I was, and still to this day, am terrible at making important choices that could potentially lead down to different paths in my life. I may end up overthinking it or wait too long where a choice was already made within the time. It is a major issue I'm trying to work on. This was where I didn't know what was about to come ahead of me, and a lot of things changed over the years. I didn't try to show it on stream, but it was most likely already out in the open to begin with. Now, the second and last video I would like to talk about is the one I made based on my time in Foxwoods. Me, my dad, and a close friend of mine went to Foxwoods in Connecticut. This video was made a few months after the birthday update. This is where I played the game Super Monkey Ball Ticket Blitz. The story behind this is not complicated. I saw this game at a small arcade within the same building, and I figured I could make a video of me attempting it. At the time, this was where I asked my friend to record me playing the game. I was hoping to get the jackpot, since I know there's plenty of videos out there that people have recorded themselves getting the jackpot on an arcade game. Now, this is just me taking a guess, but I like to say this video got attention because it was based on an arcade game and how this was me before I went out to streaming. I know at the time this and a few other arcade games were pretty popular as well. This is kind of like the same reason as the first video. I didn't really have a plan or a goal in mind. I just wanted to get the camera out and start recording myself. I will say this. I never expected to see this video get a lot of views within the time. That's part of the reason why I didn't delete the videos. It's because I don't really have a lot of memories recorded or photos taken. So if I can keep anything related to my past, if it's not daunting to me, that's great. Thank you to those that found the video appealing, and I appreciate all the positive comments that were made within it. It is hard to believe this video was made so long ago. Time has changed a lot since then. Now, let's get back to the main reason. I remember making some of the most randomest updates, and if I'm being honest, I didn't really understand why I did them to begin with. The only update that really made sense to me at the time was the situation that happened in France back in November of 2015, which was devastating at the time. I started doing streams and I didn't even know how to make an event and what separated from the same stream two events. I know that might not make sense to you, but I did have a really tough time creating events and somehow not being able to understand it within the time. However, I did end up discovering the way of creating events, which made streaming a lot easier since viewers were actually able to leave a like and comment if they wanted to without having one dedicated stream converting it separately. I started making videos in June of 2015, not even knowing how to go about content creation. One of my first streams on the channel that actually had face cam was literally just me playing random video games, and I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. I looked up to a lot of content creators and figured I can come up with my own ideas and inspirations based on what they did and what made them successful, but that wasn't the case. When I look back at everything I did within the beginning, it did not really make sense to me, and I know that's how everything starts out, but for me, it felt different. I actually had no goal of what I wanted to do when it came to content creation when I first began streaming. All I wanted to do at the time was have fun, but I didn't realize there were so many responsibilities that went along with it. When I first started, I was actually out in my living room when I finally got my face cam on. I remember the goal was to get to 1,000 subscribers, and then that was where I would reveal my face. I eventually did end up moving to my room because it felt odd this was going on, and I didn't really get a grasp on why I began to stream in the living room in the first place. That was when I got my first official desktop, which was an Origin brand. This is where streaming made a bit more sense, and I was finally able to get some privacy, but that wasn't where the mistakes began. Take a look at the comparison of the setups I've had and what it is now. That's 10 years of streaming in the exact same place. It's interesting to see how everything has changed over the years and how much time has passed. Alright, let's get on to the second reason. The second reason is audience reasons. I didn't know what kind of audience I wanted to target back then. This is kind of like my first reason. I didn't know what I was doing as a content creator. That also meant I didn't know what kind of audience I was targeting when I began streaming. When I was streaming on YouTube Gaming when it was around, I did games such as Splatoon, Mario Kart 8, Super Mario Maker 1, Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U, and a bunch of solo games that were related to Nintendo. I did stream a lot of multiplayer games on the Nintendo Switch when they were being released back in 2017, which is hard to believe. I did Nintendo Switch games such as Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which that was a lot of, and many more. I was and have always been a Nintendo fan since the very beginning. I know for a fact I did collabs with a lot of streamers when I first started. I'm not saying doing collabs all together is a bad thing, and I think it's actually a great idea to do collabs with other streamers. However, I don't think it's the best idea when you don't know why you're doing a collaboration and the reasons are unknown to begin with. This was something that I didn't take into consideration, and my mind wasn't focused on forming connections within the time. I feel like I may have gotten mixed communities where it should have been my own and built from the ground up. I feel like I didn't do my job as a content creator. Streaming at the time was a lot of fun for me, but I do need to say this. It was also a way of escaping the stress I was going through, and I just didn't realize it back then. I wish I learned a lot of things sooner than later, and that goes for so many things in my lifetime. The point I'm making with this reason is, I really didn't know what kind of audience I was targeting for, and I just kind of went with the flow, if that makes any sense. This was where my autism kicked in, and it was an issue I was not aware of until a long time passed by. Alright, this next reason might sound stupid, but I don't think it is. The next reason is unfinished games. There was a lot of solo games that were unfinished. When I was streaming on YouTube, I mentioned that I did a bunch of solo games. Keep in mind, this was a time where my patience was very low, and if something came my way and I didn't know how to go about it, I would basically just up and go and move on from it without a trace or explaining myself based on the game that was left behind. There are games that I did finish. Some examples are Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, Sonic Adventure DX, Sonic Heroes, both Super Mario Galaxy games, and many more. Finishing those alone were great, and I'm glad I was able to actually sit down and get them done, even though some of them weren't finished in one go. Some of them were actually finished within a year or so. Now, there was a lot of games that I did streams on, but I never actually finished or 100%ed some of them. Some examples are Sonic and All-Stars Race and Transform. With that title, I ended up switching from 100% in the game to only unlocking all the characters and calling it a day. Paper Mario for the N64 was another title I didn't finish. To this day, it is still the only Paper Mario game I've never finished before. It's crazy too, since I finished all of the newer Paper Mario games, even including the HD remake of The Thousand Year Door, which that title is amazing. Maybe someday I'll return to it and finally finish the title in the future. One of the last titles I want to add here, and I think this was a big one for me, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. All of the unfinished games, excluding one, are pretty much the same reason, which is due to having a lack of patience, and I did not have the urge to go deep into a game if I was stuck at any given point. The one game I honestly wanted to finish on stream was The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, since that was an amazing title. I did end up finishing it a few years later with a bit of help. I have a family member that loves the game dearly to his heart, and he ended up giving me a lot of advices on what I could improve and how to go about the game. Both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are amazing titles, and it's worth putting in the time. The point I'm making with all of this is that the next time I ever wish to go for a solo game, I would like to be able to do the title completely and not leave it behind. I am someone that no longer does that. I now tend to just stick to one game and do everything I can within it before I move on to the next title. I want to put all this behind me and not drag on the past anymore, which leads into the next reason. The fourth reason is dragging the past. I don't want to drag on the past anymore. Over the years, it has been very difficult for me to move on from certain things within my life, and one of them is when issues occurred when I was streaming on YouTube. There were streams where I did playthroughs with some of the craziest things occurring, and times where viewers ended up donating a lot of money, which I always appreciated at the time. It always meant the world when people donated money to me. I want to say thank you all so much for the donations during the times I was streaming on YouTube. There is a lot of great memories that I will treasure for as long as I live. There were times where I did have a lot of fun when I was streaming, and I definitely know those are the moments I don't want to forget. However, there were times where things got extremely dark on streams, and those are the memories I wish to forget and move on from. I know I can't undo the things that were done, and I understand everything that happened was a long time ago, but a lot of the past has stood with me to this day. I am only one person trying to amend as much as I can. No one is perfect, and I know I've had my fair share of flaws within the time. The fifth and final reason is, I'm not the same person anymore. It is completely normal for everyone to change over time. However, I have changed significantly since I began making videos and doing live streams. I have realized that it wasn't the version I wanted to be. Over the years, I have been rewatching my streams and realizing that it was an immature version of me. You can say that everyone goes through a phase in their lives and might not know what they want to do or what direction they want to head in, but I feel like it was different for me. I didn't come to that realization until much later in my lifetime. I'm going to be honest, that realization hit me hard, and I didn't realize that there were a lot of unresolved problems over the years. This is something I wish I learned and tackled earlier on. I know I can't exactly remove my past from YouTube since it is there forever, but I can do everything in my power to move on and start new. It's hard to do, but every day is a work in progress. Change is always hard, especially for me. I had a tough childhood when it came to socializing and interacting with people. I now know that a lot of the problems I was going through were never resolved, which leads to the present day and how I've been going about anything within my life. This was also where my autism was kicking in, and I just wasn't aware of it at the time. There were a lot of situations that took place on YouTube and my original Discord server that I felt like could have been handled a lot better, but I know a lot of it was my fault based on how I acted back then. I live with a lot of regret because of everything that happened in the past, and it's been very hard to move on from. I've been taking a lot of time to myself to reflect on everything, not just from live streams on YouTube and Twitch, but pretty much everything in my life. There were so many situations that I feel like I could have handled a lot better, but I just didn't know how to tackle them at the time. That was an extremely hard realization for me, and I know there was no going back to fix it. Time only goes forward, and that's how I'm trying to handle things from here. From here on out, I want to do the best I can with the knowledge I have and not make the same mistakes that once occurred. I want to be able to forge a new path and make connections with who I am now rather than seeing the past and what could have been. To this day, I'm still trying to figure out why I was acting the way I did because a lot of it is honestly something I can't even make sense out of. There have been a lot of days where I sat down and asked myself why I acted the way I did back then over the years. I have been in therapy for the past year. I will explain more about that at the end of the video. While I was and still am trying to put the puzzle pieces together, there are a couple of things I've been up to which leads to the next thing I would like to go into. Now, you're probably wondering, what have I been doing? I will be glad to answer this question. Over the years, I've been trying to better myself and get a deeper understanding of why I was acting the way I did. However, within the midst of everything, there is a few things I've been up to which leads to some positive steps. Let's start with the first thing. The first thing is, I've actually been doing a lot of trophies and achievement hunting. This is essentially where I play games that I wish to target for and 100% them, which means either getting every single trophy or achievement out of a set. When I complete a game, this is where I tell stories based on what the game is about, what I think ratings on trophies or the amount of game scores either felt right or didn't on a set, what I think either a task belongs on a set or should have been left out. Lastly, I give a general overall rating of my thoughts on the game, and I even rate the set of trophies and achievements as well along with it. To those that do not know, I started in October of 2023 with Sonic Superstars on the PlayStation 5. I already had a head start with 72 Platinums when I was trophy hunting back in the day. My original goal was to get to 100 Platinums, but then I realized I was having a lot of fun with what I was doing and figured I would expand my goal, which is getting to 200 Platinums. I am very close to achieving it as of making this video. My other goal is to get to 100,000 gamer scores on the Xbox. That was where I was extremely behind on and I needed to catch up. This is how many points I currently have on the Xbox. I'm not that far off from reaching the goal now, which is great. If you are someone that is interested in reading any of the stories I've done, you are more than welcome to join the Discord server and give them a read. You can view my reviews of the games based on Xbox and PlayStation since I made them separate categories. It was a bit of a mess in the beginning to sort out, but after a bit of time, it's now looking a lot better. There are a lot of exclusive games within both systems that I would like to target for in the future. The list is pretty long as it is, but it's been a journey so far, and I look forward to achieving the goals in the future. If you have a game that you think is worth checking out, please do not be afraid to reach out on the server. I'm always interested in trying out new games and what it brings to the table. The next thing is, I've been making serious adjustments to my modded Switch. I want to disclaim something. All of the mods that are being shown here are not my work, and they all belong to the people that have done each of them that can be found on GameBanana. They've done some amazing work, so please go check them out if you want to see more of the mods they have done. It's amazing what people can do for modding with video games, and I cannot wait to see what's in stores for the future. Now then, let's talk about how I was able to mod the original Switch. To those that do not know the story, I ended up getting a Nintendo Switch OLED back in June of 2022. This is where I just got a job and I was making a lot of extra money. I figured that I could try to get the original Switch mod since I had 2 Nintendo Switch systems. I ended up succeeding with modding the original Switch back in September of 2022, which was almost 4 years ago as of making this video. That is insane to think about. I also wanted to be safe and make sure that nothing would ever happen to my primary account if something went wrong or accidentally getting banned for having a mod that wasn't safe to play online. I would be devastated by that since that is 9 years of work, and I think anyone would be at that point too. The last thing I would want to happen is all my saves being deleted or never being able to get access to them again. I have actually seen people play as Giga Bowser in a couple of online arenas over the years, and Nintendo did not end up doing anything when it came to this. It's risky, but it could be fun battling Giga Bowser that's not in Classic Mode or World of Light. I want to say it might be because it was only in arenas and not in Quick Play. I am aware Quick Play is a lot more restricted when it comes to having mods on, so that's where I need to be careful when it comes to having mods enabled while playing online. This was where I went and made a second Nintendo account. One with all my saves and games over the years, and where it cannot be affected by mods, and one related to modding the Switch games. This is the account where I can try things out and take risks without having to worry about anything happening to my main account. If in any likely event my modded Switch does get banned from playing online, then I'll go all out and mod as many games as I can with the knowledge I have. In the present day, I use it mostly to play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and I've streamed the game a lot of times throughout the years on Twitch with the mods, which was a lot of fun. At some point in time, I would like to do some investigation on other games. I have tried it out on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with custom characters that were able to work, and Mario Party Superstars. I didn't really get a chance to go that deep into Mario Party, but I would like to try and go deeper at some point, and that goes with a bunch of other games. While having a modded Switch is great, I need to be careful when Nintendo gets the Switch update since I could potentially put the system in jeopardy. Looking at you, General Stability. Trust me when I say this, I've accidentally updated it multiple times over the years, and that has locked me out from using the modded Switch. Sometimes it took a while for the newest updates to come out, and I wasn't able to use it for a good period of time. Modding a Switch can be extremely fun, but it can also be very daunting since you're basically walking on eggshells to make sure your Switch doesn't get banned. Alright, let's get to the next thing, which is... Whoa, is that a Steam Deck with emulators on it? Let's go! Yes, that's right, I've been tinkering around with the Steam Deck. I probably didn't tell the story as much as I did, but here it is. The gameplay footage that is being shown in this part of the video is all coming from the Steam Deck. It goes to show you how powerful the system is. Now then, I got the Steam Deck as a Christmas gift in 2024. I did use the system at the time, but it wasn't for very long since I had other games I wanted to focus on and get those done within the time. That is where it led me to not using the system for about a year and a half. I was originally going to sell it since I wasn't really using it and I needed the money, but then I found out that the Steam Deck skyrocketed in price when they finally restocked the system after a couple of years passed by. After seeing this and reading about why Steam increased the prices for them, that was where I changed my decision and decided to go for what I really wanted to do with it, which is to turn it into a system that can play video games from various consoles. Now, at the time of making this video, I've been in project mode for the past few months, and I've recently been tackling a lot of unfinished tasks. Within that time, I've been able to achieve my goal with the Steam Deck, and I've been able to make each of the emulators work. Some of them required a bit more work, and there were files missing that needed to be installed, which is where my cousin came into the picture. He is someone that knows a lot about technology and how to make emulators work, so I would like to give a shout out to him for the help. I'm not going to say his channel or name for safety reasons, but you know who you are. I was originally going to use the Steam Deck as a way of getting retro achievements in case if I was on the go or if I wanted to try and 100% a game on Nintendo. Let's face it, Nintendo's the only company that does not have a reward system built into their games, unlike Xbox and PlayStation. It would be nice for Nintendo to add something like trophies or achievements within their games, but only time will tell if they make the choice to do so. If you ask me, I think it would be awesome since it would give people a reason to actually try and 100% a game and get something like a blue ribbon or an achievement plaque for completing all the tasks within a set. I know there's plenty of people that 100% Nintendo games for the fun of it. I just think it would add a lot more to the games and give a good challenge on certain titles. Nintendo is kinda doing something like this with the Donkey Kong challenges that are going on as I'm making this video. Anyways, I've grown out of the phase of using the Steam Deck for that reason, and I just have the desktop if I ever decide to really go deep into game retro achievements in the future. At some point, I would like to get Mario Kart Arcade GP 1, 2, and DX to work. However, I've had many failed attempts at it. In the past, I was able to get both of the original Mario Kart Arcade GP games to work. At the time I made the videos, and keep in mind, this was on my personal account, I was a teenager at the time, but I was able to get both games to work. Once you have them all set up and the games are working, they are extremely fun to play. However, that has been a bit of a problem for me. I want to say the files for the games are either gone or hidden very well since I've been having a tough time trying to get a hold of them. I have never been able to get Mario Kart Arcade GP DX to work, but yeah, I've seen many videos with people being able to get the game to work. I remember the first time I played the game was when I went to a Dave & Buster's back in the day, and I had a blast. To this day, it's still an all-time favorite when I go to a Dave & Buster's. The game is so fascinating, and the fact you can play as Pac-Man, even though the Pac-Man series was going through a bit of a weird time back then, and Don-chan from the Taiko no Tushi series is amazing. I generally wish we could see more collabs like this. Sonic Racing Crossroads has been making that dream come true with its character roster, and how there have been a lot of collabs with multiple different games in series since the game first released. I would love to see something like this with the Mario Kart series on console someday. I guess you can count Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with the characters they have in the game, but I think Sonic Racing Crossroads is doing a better job at this if you ask me. If Sega's able to do this with Sonic with his own racing game, and half of the characters are not even from the Sonic series, then I think Nintendo can as well. I've only played the USA version of Mario Kart Arcade GP DX, and I know for a fact that Japan's version is significantly better since it has a lot more items which you can select from and actually choose your kart that you want to use instead of it being randomized. There are more tracks to play on, more characters, and even costume variants of some characters to play with. There's even an online mode to play against opponents, and it expands the content completely, which I think all of it is amazing to see with an arcade game. It's pretty popular in the present, so we know the game is doing extremely well, and people still want to play it to this day. That's where you know a company did something right with an arcade game. I generally wish they would port the games to actual consoles so that we could play them without having to either emulate them or go to an arcade. It's still fun to hit up arcades, but you get the point. I would love to get each of the games to work again, and with Mario Kart Arcade GP DX someday, so I'm not going to give up on trying. My goal with the Steam Deck is pretty much done, but I still need to figure out a couple of things before I can say it's completed. I'm going to say this, if you have a Steam Deck, keep it while you still have it because it has gotten a lot harder to get one now than it was back in the beginning when it debuted. The next thing is, I've been doing radio work. Over the past 2 years, I've been doing radio work for my local college. They do have an actual radio station where students such as myself can go on the radio and get our voices out there. I had to take the classes that were required, and all students had to be on the radio for class credit. I generally love it since I already had an experience in being a content creator, and things were slightly easier in my favor because of all the streaming I did when I was doing them consistently on YouTube. Honestly, if you ask me, it's kind of like streaming, except it's not based on playing a video game. I basically read what I write out within a script, and then there are people that come up with things to say right off the bat, which is a skill I want to have. And there are people that listen within the hour. Believe it or not, there are a lot of listeners that tune in within the station. I am unaware of how many people listen to my slots, but I've been told that there are a lot of them, which is awesome to hear. To give you context, I have 2 slots that I do my shows on. I will reveal more about that at a later point in the future. There is a lot that can be done with radio work, and I think it's a great skill to have since it could potentially add up in a lot of ways down the road. I recently did just get a certificate based on media content creation, which is a major milestone. If you want more information on the matter, join the Discord server for more updates about this in the future. Speaking of which, that leads into the next thing I've been doing. The next thing is, I've been making serious changes to the Discord server and what my branding is. When I came up with the brand, The Gamer's Palace, I was a teenager at the time, and I wasn't thinking about how I could have created a good brand. I really didn't have the proper knowledge or know how to make a good brand, and that was where it just kinda stuck. I'm officially done with that brand since I think it is a corny name, but it also reminds me of who I once was. If you are someone that's been on my Discord server, you will notice a lot of changes have been made over the past couple of months. To those that do not know what happened to my original Discord server, I fell for a scam back in March of 2022, and this was right before Kirby and the Forgotten Land was about to come out. Not only was that a fantastic game for the Kirby series, and I was excited to play it, but it was a devastating time since I literally lost my original account and I was dealing with a serious situation related to the issue. That is where the server I have now was made, and it's been there ever since. I will say I'm kinda glad I went and created a new account for a lot of reasons. It is hard to believe the entire situation happened over 4 years ago. With that being said, I have been rebuilding the server in new ways, and it's not the same as it once was. To those that have been there since the beginning and were in my first original Discord server, then I think you have a very good picture of what it was like. To those that weren't, that is an extremely long story to go into. I will say this, it is part of the reason why I didn't get my original account back, even though I had the chance to do so within the time. The picture I'm about to show is my first Discord account that was taken. It's been over 10 years since I made my first Discord account, which is hard to believe. My perspective on how to run a server has changed entirely, and I know a lot more now from when I first created my Discord account. It's been a major adjustment, and I've learned a lot over the years. If I'm being honest, I really didn't know how to properly run a server, and I know there were times where things got extremely out of control. When situations were going on, I didn't know how to properly handle them or resolve conflicts that were going on back then. I was dealing with a lot of things within the time, and on top of maintaining a server, there was just too much going on for me to handle everything at once. The server that is up now, I feel like there was a lot more balance, and that's the path I would like to keep going forward on. It's been a journey for sure, and I know there's still a lot ahead of me within the future. As they say, sometimes you have to let go of things to create something new. To this day, I'm still figuring out ways to improve the server and how I can go about it in the future. I know it hasn't been active for a long time, and I am aware of the reasons behind it. Just note that it is always in the back of my head. Lastly, I've been finishing up a lot of games that weren't completed. The list is actually pretty long, but I want to take a bit of time and talk about 3 games that really got my attention. Keep in mind they are all Nintendo related. The first game I would like to talk about is Donkey Kong Bananza. When this game got revealed at the Nintendo Direct that took place in April of last year, you have no idea how hyped I was to see Donkey Kong not only get in another game, but it was the first 3D game since Donkey Kong N64. I wish I had footage of my reactions within the Nintendo Direct, but when I saw this game being revealed, I was literally up and out of my seat screaming at the top of my lungs at the fact that Donkey Kong was getting a brand new game. I played this game heavily when it came out. I was a major fan of Super Mario Odyssey, and I remember streaming the game to full completion. I 100%ed the game on stream and off stream, and you know I was going to do the same thing with Donkey Kong Bananza, which is to fully 100% the game. You have no idea how hyped I was to see King K. Rool's return. The first thing he does, after being defeated by Donkey Kong for the first time, is blast up to the surface. You battle him as you're making your way to the surface, trying not to fall off, and somehow he gets to the Banania root and claims it. He's insane for someone that's been trapped underground for so long. I loved this sequence so much, and the fact this theme was there in all of its glory, that was a chef's kiss. The fact you get to go through New Donk City and make your way to King K. Rool is amazing as well. I love the fact that this game is a prequel to Super Mario Odyssey, and you could tell they really put in the work for this game. Even the second boss fight with King K. Rool was amazing, and I loved every second of it. Even though I never truly played Donkey Kong for the N64, I knew exactly what it was referencing, which was the final fight within the game. The arena and everything was so good. If you ask me, he is more of a vicious villain than Bowser is. Now, this brings me to why I'm talking about this game. I recently went and tackled the DLC content for the game, Emerald Rush. I brought the DLC back when it first released, but I didn't really get deep into it until now. I honestly didn't like it at first, and that was because I really didn't know how to go about it. I actually had a tough time figuring out how I could get a lot of points, and I was never able to meet the quota at all. However, that was until I sat down and really got into it, and I found myself being addicted to the mode. I wanted to keep going non-stop. I did achieve my goal within the DLC, which was to unlock every perk within the Void Code rewards list, which that itself was a bit of a grind. I also needed to get all of the statues as well. I am aware that the game does events based on certain statues, but I will not be going for those at the moment. I got all the main statues and I'm calling it a day. Within the time of getting footage for this game, there was an event going on which is the 40th anniversary of Mario. This was where Nintendo decided to make an event based on it within Donkey Kong Bananza with Emerald Rush. I was lucky enough to participate in the event, and it's honestly fun since there was a lot of references related to Mario and how Donkey Kong and Pauline dressed it up as the brothers when I was playing the mode. Now, I kind of wish they made the costumes unlockable after getting a certain amount of points rather than only being available within the event since they look so good. To this day, Donkey Kong Bananza is still an all-time favorite for me, and I cannot wait to see what's in stores for the Donkey Kong series. The next game I would like to talk about is Super Mario Bros. Wonder Meetup in Bellabell Park. This was revealed within a Nintendo Direct that took place in September of last year, and I have to say, I was hyped to see some extra content for the game since I generally loved playing Super Mario Bros. Wonder when it was released in October of 2023. That was such a good time to be a gamers fan since not only that game came out, but in Zombie X Spider-Man 2 released on the same day. That was another fantastic game, but let's get to the one I'm talking about. Within the extra content, this was where the Koopalings were introduced, and it was a lot of fun to battle these guys since each boss fight had a different element to share. However, this is where I think a lot of issues come into play. Once you beat the Koopalings, there really is not much to do anymore, so this is where I basically dropped the game for a little while, but it wasn't very long. This was one of the games I didn't finish completely, so I finally picked up the game and decided to truly go for everything within the title in May of this year. This was where I found out the reason why people didn't want to 100% the game. In order to truly complete this game, the first thing I had to do was to get all the standees for Rosalina since she got added into the game along with the extra content, and I want to say that this was because of the Super Mario Galaxy movie that released right about a week later as the game's extra content was being dropped. Then I had to complete all the challenges in Toad's Brigade training camp, and I have to say, some of the challenges were extremely hard to tackle, and they were fun to do. Lastly, and I think this is where a lot of people decided to stop going for completion completely, you have to buy every single decoration from the florist Poplin's flower shop, and this itself was a major grind. This is what I ended up doing. I just ended up doing the enemy challenge in Muncher Fields over and over again, which is where I was able to grind points and use the fountain to get the necessary flowers that were needed to buy from the shop. I just kept doing the method until there were no more decorations to buy. The more times you do the challenge, the more likely you will develop muscle memory, which will make it a lot easier to complete within each run. I was extremely close to completing it, so that was where I just said screw it and get the whole thing done. After that, I finally got all the badges and truly 100%ed Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I will say this, I was a little disappointed with the additional content focusing more online rather than solo. However, to this day, I still think it is a fantastic game without the additional content, and I always recommend getting it. You will have a lot of fun with the main story. Now, the last game I would like to talk about is a game that's really underrated, but I think it is worth mentioning. I would like to talk about Ring Fit Adventure. The game was released back in September of 2019, but I actually didn't get this game until May of 2021. That was where I ended up getting stimulus money at the time, and I had a lot of extra money laying around. So I decided to pick up the game and see what it has for gameplay. For context, I am actually an athlete, and I do go to the gym on a regular basis. So the fact that there was a game dedicated to exercising, that was something I loved. The game is about you as the player partnering with a person named Ring to battle a dragon named Draggle. He was imprisoned within the ring, and before you know it, he was set free by the player and caused chaos across the land. It's up to the player and Ring to find the four masters across the land and put a stop to his evil corruption before it's too late. You run through the fields as you go through various amount of obstacles, and the game will ask the player to do tasks related to exercising. Some areas will have the player doing squats, which that was a lot of. Some will focus on your glutes, arms, back, stomach, and literally almost everywhere that you can think of that is related to exercising, which is incredible for a video game if you ask me. You either make your way to the end, or you'll encounter enemies along the way, which is where the battle system comes into play. This is where it plays like an RPG game, but how the players attack is related to exercising, which I thought was extremely original. Now, as of why I'm talking about this game, it is because I was pretty close to finishing this game completely. In order to truly finish this game, you have to go through the whole cycle 3 times in a row, which includes completing the game and battling all the bosses again with different dialogue. The game has a total of 23 worlds for each difficulty, and if you multiply that by 3, it adds up to 69 worlds. Each time you go through, the enemies and tasks that are required to do spike up. The difficulty ranges through main story, extra fitness, and master fitness. I was actually at Master Fitness, but I ended up dropping the game for about 5 years for reasons unknown. I honestly do not know why I stopped playing this game. When I was playing it within the time, I loved every minute of what the game has to offer. This is where I can actually thank the Nintendo Store app that released a little while back on mobile devices, since I would have never guessed that it was that long, and it gave me exact dates of when I was playing the game. So this was actually one of the last games I went and finished since it required a lot of work. Since I was already an athlete and my body was up for it, I was able to get right back into it and tackle the rest of the game. It took me around 5 days to get to the end of the game and finally being able to fully complete it. This game is truly a masterpiece in my opinion, and it reminds me a lot of the Afterlife games that were released on the Wii. That is a completely different story. If you want my honest opinion, I think it is a great game and it brings a lot to the table. This is actually a game that requires accessories, and over the years, it's gotten a lot harder to get a hold of them since the game is almost 7 years old. I am glad I still have this game for preservation, and part of me feels like that this title is either going to be extremely hard to get a hold of, or not even possible to get your hands on in the future. Hopefully that is not the case, and I'm going to be optimistic about it. I am hoping Nintendo makes more games like Ring Fit Adventure in the future. There were a lot of other games I ended up finishing, but those were the ones that really got my attention and I wanted to talk about. Thank you for listening to my thoughts and opinions on these games. In conclusion, I know this video has been long and I am near the end. As of making this video, I recently posted a general statement regarding everything that has been going on within my life and how I've been dealing with issues over the past couple of years. If you haven't read it, it goes into deeper details of why I suddenly stopped streaming completely in June of 2019 and a whole bunch of other things that were going on when I was streaming on YouTube. I want to say it answers a lot of questions that people were asking over the years, but if I missed something within the statement or if you have any questions, feel free to say something within the Discord server or the comments section and I'll do the best I can to answer it. Everything that was said within the post is all true. I am truly sorry to everyone for how things turned out over the years when I was streaming on YouTube. I did not know how to handle a lot of the issues that took place, and I know that has come to haunt me within the time. I have been in therapy for the past year now, and I didn't realize how much I was hurting from everything that has happened within my life. I would like to bring out something since I am talking about therapy. Within my time in therapy, I have brought up the issue that happened within the birthday stream that took place back in August of 2016. If you have been watching my stream since the beginning, then you will most likely know the story very well. But to those that haven't, here it is. This was at the time where I was streaming out in the living room, and before you know it, things got weird as my cousin was calling from Chile in South America, and my mom wanted me to answer it while I was going about my stream. I had no problem talking to her, that wasn't the issue. The problem was my mom wanted me to answer it as I was streaming at that moment, and it became extremely embarrassing. I wasn't able to turn off the camera within the moment, and that was where I kind of panicked and just put the screen low enough for viewers to not see or hear what was going on. I get that it was my birthday, and people within my family wanted to wish me a happy birthday, but I will say it was very bad timing, and communications could have been a lot better. Even though I was in the open living room, I can understand how it isn't considered to be privacy at that point. I wasn't really thinking about it at the time, I didn't expect it was going to happen, and I was unprepared for the outcome. However, I feel like it was an invasion of my privacy, and I didn't feel too good about it since it was on stream and people saw it happening live. I do also get that it was unintentional and no one was out to get me within that point, but it just felt like a wall was taken down and I never really got a chance to bring it up before therapy. I know there were a lot of people within the time that took the moment as a funny joke and they were laughing at it. Some people consider it to be a memory that's not worth forgetting, but it is something I wish to forget and move on from. I am aware that there were a lot of other situations that took place on YouTube, but that was one of them that had a huge impact on my overall mental health. It wasn't just YouTube and live streams. It was also when I was in school, and I didn't exactly know how to handle the problems back then either. I am doing everything I possibly can to not only put the past behind me, but move on in my life. I don't want to be known for what I was when I first streamed. I want to build a foundation where I would be able to start fresh from the ground up and know what direction I would like to take the channel towards. I have done streams on Twitch over the years, but it was never really set in stone. I didn't really know what I had as a schedule to begin with. At that time, and present day really, I've just been doing a bunch of test streams based on anything that I've changed within the program I use for streaming. I have plans and goals I would like to achieve in my life, but that comes at the cost of a lot of things. I want to be able to move on and be at a better place in my life. I understand it's been quite a long time since I last streamed consistently, and I can't make up for the amount of years I missed, but it is part of the reason why I haven't come back to begin with. I ended up privating at least half of the streams last year with this in mind, but I didn't feel like it would have been a good idea to do all of them within the time. That is because I thought I could move on and try to forge a new path with the knowledge I have, but that is not the case anymore. I find that each and every single one of the streams I did before I realized everything was going on always reminds me of who I once was. It's not that I don't want to forget all the memories that were made when I streamed between 2016 and 2019. I want people to know me for who I am now rather than judging me from the past.
One of my goals is to move on from everything, even if that means there were permanent damages that were done and can never be fixed. I have known that for a long time now. It hurts sometimes, but I know it's part of moving on.
There have been days where it got hard and the memories kept coming back to haunt me. To those that have been looking at my posts within the YouTube channel, I would like to say something about this. I understand I made posts and statements about potential return to streams over the past half decade, and I had nothing to show for it. I am sorry to everyone that had their hopes up on seeing me return and thought it was all a trick. It wasn't, and it was all unintentional. I truly wanted to make my return to streaming within those times. However, that was where a lot of mental problems started to rise, and I was not aware of what I was feeling at the time. I would like to figure everything out and have a set plan for when or if I ever decide to make a return. I even made a lot of update live streams when I was still on YouTube, and that definitely added up over time as well, which I am not proud of. Like I said before, there are so many memories that are worth not forgetting, and those are the ones I will treasure forever. I didn't really have a set idea or why I was even streaming to begin with, other than the fact that I was going through a lot of stress at the time, and streaming was an outlet for me. As of right now, I've been taking a step back and reflecting on my life. I honestly do not know what I want to do or where I want to head. That's a problem I've been struggling with for the past few years now. I've also been making serious changes to my life and how I've approached a lot of things. If I ever do return, I want to be able to live stream without feeling this pressure that I'm going to do something wrong or knowing that something could happen. I understand life isn't perfect and there are always going to be problems, but I want to be able to feel confident in what I do and not just sit in a chair forcing myself to live stream. Live streaming within that time was fun, and I know there were some fantastic moments that I won't forget, but this is a decision I'm making based on moving forward. This has been in the back of my head for a long while now, and I know in my heart that this is the right choice to make. There is something I would like to point out. All of the voiceover recordings were not done at home. They were actually done at my local college's radio station. Ever since I got the certificate, and along with me doing radio shows, I'm allowed to return to the studio anytime and do work that's not related to it. However, I can only get access to it as long as I'm still a college student taking classes, which I still am as of making this video. This was where I had to make drives to the place multiple times based on rewrites from the script and redoing the voiceover parts that I thought were either off, something didn't sound right, or even getting the information wrong on things that I wrote out. I would like to give a huge thanks to all the times I was able to go into the recording rooms and they had no problem with me doing this. This entire project would not have been possible if I wasn't able to do the voiceover recordings. Not only did they have all the right equipment and softwares for me to use, I actually don't have any of the programs that I use to make this video other than editing software on my own devices. With that being said, thank you for all of it to those that know me and are watching this video.
This entire project took a lot of time to get done. It took a bit longer to do since there were a lot of rewrites that happened throughout the entire process of this project. Honestly, if you ask me, I'm glad this is how it turned out. This is my first major video project and I pretty much did all of this on my own. I'm only one person doing everything on his own. To those that have been there since the very beginning, I want to say thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot that there are people within the community that still wish to talk to me and see what's going on. I will admit, it is hard to believe that this channel has been around for 11 years. That is a major landmark. Once I have everything figured out and I know what I want to do, I will make another video with a plan in mind. Until then, you are more than welcome to join the Discord server with the link in the description. It is where I talk to people and post updates based on anything that's going on and just general conversations that take place. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll return when the time is right. Until then, take care to you all.